Good afternoon, everyone. My partner Eulice and I, Ting, will be here to interview you all about the Nagin case. And thanks to you all for taking time to sit down with us for this interview today.
We're also grateful for your invitation to today's interview.
Okay, let's get started with some background information on our topic, which is should Nagin spare from death penalty due to his intellectual disability? Now, I will pass to my partner Eulice to tell us the brief background information of Nagin case.
Thank you, Ting. I'm Eulice, and I'll provide some background information on Negatran. Negatran is a Malaysian man who has intellectual disability with an IQ of 69. And on April 2009, he was arrested at the age of 21 at Woodsland Checkpoint with 42.72 grams of heroin entering Singapore. And according to psychiatrists in Singapore, Negatran is not mentally ill and he is aware of his action of transporting drugs despite having an IQ of 69. Negatran stated in support of his pleasure plea that he only delivered the bundle because a person called King had threatened to kill his lover if he didn't. Yet, activists argued that he should receive fewer sentences instead of the death penalty due to his intellectual disability. And on 27 April 2022, he was convicted of drug trafficking and was executed in Singapore.
Thank you for your information, Eulice. And now let's start with the first question. Why do you all think that should Nagin be spared from the death penalty due to his intellectual disability?
I will answer the question first. So I'm Charmaine. So in my opinion, I think that Nagin should not be spared from the death penalty, nor should get a lighter punishment. So in my point of view, I think that he had violence one of the ethic theory, utilitarianism. So in utilitarianism, say that the end justify the mean. Think about it. If he really successfully transport the drug without being caught to Singapore, he can harm a lot of people, especially addicts. So the drug heroin can cause pain, pleasure, and death due to overdose. Since the early 1999 until 2020, there has been more optic drugs, including heroin, were being misused, which lead to an increase in drug overdose death.
Oh, I can see your point. So in your point of view, if the drug heroin successfully transport into Singapore, will cause a lot of harm to people, right?
Yes, you are right. So in other words, to describe utilitarianism is if the action produces an outcome that benefits greatest number of people, then the action are right. But in Natharan's case, he did not follow the rules because he did not benefit greatest number of people. And instead, it involved a lot of people.
Is it only involved with the addict?
No, not only the addict, but actually it also involved his family member. So Nagin came from a poor family, and his father passed away during Nagin death row imprisonment in Singapore. So when the family received a letter about Nagin execution, they were only given 2 weeks to figure out and prepare for the trip to Singapore to see him, and they need a lot of money to go there due to the COVID season. So the family also require money from the fund, charity, relative, or the friend for the funeral after his execution.
I'm sorry to interrupt. May I add on some point?
Yes, of course, please.
Yeah, I'm Divine. There's also another category under utilitarianism, which is the subordinate role. Nagin broke the subordinate rule to save his girlfriend's life and pay his debt. In subordinate roles, the regulations may be broken if doing so offers more utility than keeping them. But in this case, the outcome did not produce more utility.
Oh, thank you for your additional explanation. How about you, Ziyuan? What is your point of view on this case? Is it considering ethical to pass death sentence to Negatran?
As an advocate of deontology and personally a deontologist myself, any deviations from the rules is deemed unethical regardless. As this case happened in Singapore jurisdictions, I use the laws, rules, regulations of Singapore to evaluate Nagatarians' agathality in this case. Among many appeal letters on the lawsuits of Naga-entrians, one of the arguments made is the Misuse of Drug Act 2012, described in 33B3A, that make the court mandatory to convict an offender to life imprisonment if the offender's involvement is merely as a courier. It may seem applicable at first to this case, but when you know that the act is enacted by the parliaments on 14 November 2012, while Naga-entrians' case occurs on 22 April 2009,
So are you saying that the mismatch of enactment time and the case render the act's effects as invalidated?
yes, exactly.
Oh, interesting. How about the common argument of using the negatrans mental condition in the appeal letter?
Yes. Among other arguments, a popularized one include Naga-entrians' mental illness. It argues with 33B3B that makes the court mandatory to convict an offenders on capital drug charge to life imprisonment if they exhibit signs of mental illness. In order for this to be true, Naga-entrian must pass all 3 limb tests to be verified. Based on the court judgments on Naga-entrian's contemporary statements and accounts of the situation, he constantly switches between knowing and not knowing the content of the bundle, where in some cases, he state consciously being aware of his act and doing it out of gang loyalty. This make the court rejecting the verification of Naga-entrian's abnormality of mind, and this means that the misuse of drug 33B3B does not apply in this case.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. May I add on some more information?
Yes, please.
Yeah, to add on, psychiatrists such as Dr. Kenneth Koh, Dr. Ng Eng Kian, and Dr. Patricia Yap's all performed analysis and reports to suggest the falsehood of his condition, at least during the commitment crime. This made the 33B3B Act fail to apply for Nagintran.
Thanks for both of you. And how about Divine? Is there anything you still want to share with us?
Yes, I, like them, think that Nagintran should not be spared from death penalties. I strongly feel that people should practice virtue. It is a learned behavior that acts out of spontaneous goodness rather than duty. Just like Aristotle once said, a virtuous person who is faced with ethical dilemmas will be more likely to make the right choice.
Are you saying that by practicing virtue ethics, we can tell when things are right or wrong?
Yes, you're right. As you can see, Nagintran was lack of virtue. He did not practice honesty and did not fulfill the responsibility of a visitor to Singapore. He did not behave in a good way. As a result, we can see that if someone is not practicing virtue, they will have a higher chance of doing something that is morally wrong. Moreover, from the Singapore government's perspective, it is vital to ensure that Singapore and Singaporeans are safe. That is why they have to impose strict penalties on criminals to encourage people not to sin.
Thank you very much for your information. Is there anything to add on? Okay, so before ending this interview session, I would like to sum up what you all have said just now. The sentence for Nagintran, who trafficked the drug into Singapore, is suitable and reasonable. Although it's sad to know that a person's life is taken away, but everyone should follow the law of every country and most importantly, never do anything that is illegal. We should never commit this kind of act even if we are threatened or forced to do so. If anyone faces such thing, they should always ask help from the police instead of doing illegal thing. Well, I think that's all for today's interview. Thanks you all for attending.